Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for April 9, 2024. And in the news this afternoon, scene of a 2023 double murder being used by criminals to stash loot. Just over a year after a mother and her son were found murdered in a house in Providence, Manchester, police returned to the same house Sunday night to recover loot, including poker boxes taken from a bar by armed criminals earlier. According to the police, Sunday night's raid of the now abandoned house was their fourth since the 2023 double murder, as they had cause during their investigations of that and other crimes to go to the house which was being used by criminals to stash stolen goods. On Sunday, the police went to the house shortly after 3 of 4 men suspected of robbing a bar and its patrons in Finegrass near Christiana were nabbed during a roadblock. A police source said about 9 p.m., 4 men, 2 of whom were armed, entered the bar and held up patrons, stealing 3 cell phones, money, liquor, and poker boxes. The men escaped in a waiting car. The police were alerted and the area cordoned off with roadblocks. A Toyota Voxy was intercepted and 3 of the 4 men arrested. Police said 2 of the men are 23 years old, while the other is 19 years old. They also said a firearm was seized. A manhunt has been launched for the 4th suspect. On January 3, 2023, Althea Rowe, 52, and her 35-year-old son, Cleon Palmer, were found with gunshot wounds at the house in Providence District. A senior police source at the time had told the news that Palmer was wanted for shooting incidents in Manchester and had managed to elude the police in several operations. He reportedly fled to the northern parishes of Trelawney and St. James. The source said, unknown to the police, Palmer returned to Manchester and was living at the house, which is in a secluded section of Providence. Police believe Palmer's criminal lifestyle was a factor in his demise and the killing of his mother. Investigators theorized that the 2 were killed on New Year's Eve in 2022. Meanwhile, the seizure of the firearm on Sunday came after the police swooped down on an illegal party about 1:30 Sunday morning in Crosskeys, Manchester, arresting 2 men, including the owner of the premises, and charging them with breaching the Noise Abatement Act. One of the men, aged 26, was also charged with illegal possession of marijuana. The police also said they searched the venue and found a 9mm Smith & Wesson firearm with 7 rounds. Jackson wants the Speaker's withholding of AG's opinion to be litigated. House Speaker Juliet Holness is facing the heat over the failure to make public Attorney General Derek McCoy's opinion on the tabling of reports after his office washed its hands of the now contentious matter, disclosing that it cannot lawfully release the document. The AG's chambers last week denied an access to information request made by the news, stating that the document is exempt from disclosure. We have identified an official document that related to your request made under the Act, but it's exempt from disclosure under Section 17A, Solicitor General Marlene Alfred said in response to the request. That section outlines that an official document is exempt from disclosure if it would be privileged from production in legal proceedings on the ground of legal professional privilege. We are therefore unable to grant access to the official document as the privilege is not ours to waive, Aldred said. Jamaica Bar Association President Kevin Powell said in the usual course, where a client seeks and receives legal advice from his or her attorney, the advice is protected from disclosure because of legal professional privilege. In this instance, he said, the Attorney General considers the Speaker of the House as his client and his advice to the Speaker would be similarly protected. On the other hand, Powell said the client, in this case, the Speaker, can waive the privilege, but unless that is done, the Solicitor General's stance appears to be correct. However, given the significant public interest in this matter, I think it is important to highlight that the Speaker can waive the privilege and disclose the advice, he said. But Jamaicans for Justice Executive Director Michael Jackson has argued that the matter ought to be ventilated in court. Jackson said that the human rights lobby is concerned whether legal privilege can properly be said to apply in this specific matter. We ask, who is the client that the Attorney General serves? and to whom this privilege belongs. Jackson said the AG's chambers fulfills several constitutional roles, including being the arbiter of the public interest. Equally, she said, AG is the chief legal advisor to the government and specifically to cabinet. Jackson said the AG is therefore a public servant with a duty to the public. She said that while there may be an inherent tension between the roles of legal advisor to cabinet and the public, this tension does not extend to the current situation, as the AG has no legal obligation to the Speaker. The JFJ director said there are two key elements in deciding whether legal privilege applies. She said it must be considered whether the Speaker is a client of the AG and can benefit from privilege. Pointing to a similar matter, the Turks and the Caicos Islands, where the issue of privilege arose, Jackson said the courts ruled that the cabinet may benefit from privilege as a collective but not an individual member. The House Speaker is no cabinet member, so neither is applicable here, she told the news. Jackson said that the second element is the nature of the advice, whether the Speaker sought legal advice which would be given in confidence, or whether that advice was sought on behalf of the House of Representatives, of which she is a member. Jackson said the test is whether the AG's opinion was made confidentially for the purposes of legal advice, or whether the opinion is merely sharing the AG's opinion on the law and what can prudently be done. Further, we accept that this opinion ought to have been sought on the House's behalf. Privilege is therefore not the House Speaker's to assert, she said. JFJ is of the view that the Attorney General's ultimate client is not the government by way of the cabinet, but the public. The Attorney General should therefore have the power and an obligation, if necessary, to publish his legal views on important matters while maintaining the confidentiality of discussions with the cabinet. We maintain that withholding the AG's opinion is ill-advised, as the public interest is not served by secrecy but by transparency, said Jackson. She urged the parliamentary opposition to challenge the withholding of the opinion in court, and that Jamaicans not view the issue as a political but rather a critical moment in deciding what type of democracy we want for Jamaica. The opposition said it has not yet decided on whether to take the matter to court. Noted constitutional lawyer Dr. Floyd Barnett said the normal principle is that communication between attorney and a client is governed by professional privilege and cannot be disclosed to a third party without the consent of the client. However, he said the matter is an extraordinary one in which the client is not only a public body but is in effect the people's parliament. He said the opinion provided to the Speaker is one which concerns the conduct of the parliament. It is very unusual for opinions on a matter relating to the constitutional arrangements of the People's Parliament to be kept away from people they all represent and are supposed to serve, he said. Barnett said globally there are occasions in which a country's AGs gives opinion on general matters relating to the application of the laws or any constitutional principle, and said opinions are made public. Further, he said the assumption of wholeness to withhold reports even from Parliament is highly questionable. The Speaker is a presiding officer, and neither the Constitution nor the standing orders permits the Speaker to withhold matters to Parliament, whether it's the Speaker or the clerk, he said, adding that there has to be legal grounds which specifically authorize this. There is no individual discretionary powers given in constitutional law to a Speaker to withhold documents or information from Parliament, Barnett added. Wholeness has maintained a tight grip on the AG's opinion, but has asserted that there is nothing to hide. However, she has released the opinion of Parliament's legal counsel on the matter, which supports her current position.